All right, so grab Bibles, Matthew 17. This is going to be a fun story. It's one that, as I was going through, just by way of just backdrop, I put together the series. Like, I put out 79 lessons all at once. I know what I'm going to preach from here till, I think, October of next year. Now, that might be a bit anal. Some of you are smiling at me as if I've got issues. And, and you're not getting an argument from me. I do have issues. But one of the things that's fun is that when I put the lessons together and I lay them out, very rarely, unless it's Easter or Christmas, I don't pull out like there's a holiday here and a holiday here. What's the Sunday before this holiday? And I just kind of throw it out there. And this was one of them. When I came to the text, when I knew we were coming up on the Sunday before Thanksgiving, and I got to Matthew 17, I'm like, how did I end up with this? We're going to talk about Thanksgiving, but we're talking about taxes. And how did we end up with this? But as I began to work through this, and as the Lord began to work on my heart and the other pastors as we work on this text, it became evident this is exactly what we want here this morning, at least for me, and hopefully for you this morning. Hopefully this speaks to you. But we're in Matthew 17:24. And by way of Thanksgiving, I just wrote this. Thanksgiving is a lesson in gratitude. I'm going to speak freely here for a minute and say this. I struggle with gratitude. I struggle with being thankful. It's not that I'm not appreciative, but in my heart of hearts, if you're a person like me, maybe that has a personality where you're a driver, where you're kind of that alpha male guy, where there's always another project, there's always another day, there's always another week, always another job, always another bill, is that the moment something gets done, the first thing on my mind is what's the next thing that needs to be done. In other words, I don't party very well. I don't celebrate. Someone says, hey, we got it done, let's have a party. I said, we don't have time for party, we still got a lot more left to do. And how can you be partying? I mean, this could have been done better. But like, here's for example. I've got tile. I did some tile work in my house along my countertop. Okay, and I used this Stickum stuff. I don't know. I decided to try something new. There's a Stickum stuff. You put it to the wall, and then you peel it off, and then you stick the tiles to it. You don't use not grout, but what am I thinking of? Mud. You don't use mud, the mortar type stuff. Okay, so I'm like, oh, this would be simple. Just put it on there. Put the tile on there. So I have 1 foot by 1 foot little square tiles. So they're all, there's these little square tiles. I'm going to put it up on there, and it'll be good. So I put the tile on there. I stick them up. And I'm like, hey, this is great. I'm just buzzing right along. Things are great. Got a wet soft. Zzz, zzz, zzz. It all looks good. I stand back. I say, man, this looks good. And then I grout it. And grout is, you put the mud in between the lines there. And I come to realize that my tiles weren't lined up perfectly, that the lines were off a bit. Every time I look at that tile, all I see are all the places where it doesn't match up. Is there anybody here that has the same horrible disease that I have? Can we start a support group? All I see are the lines that don't match up. I'm not thankful for the fact that I've got tile up on the wall and that it looks probably better than it did before. All I can see is the places where I screwed up. And people have come and they say, hey, I really like the tile work. I look and I'm like, no, you don't. Because you can see the lines here. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. They're like, I didn't even see those lines. Now I know you're really lying to me. Come on, you can't. How can you not miss that? They said, I never even noticed that. How can you not? That's all you can see. And so for these things, I'm like, so being thankful sometimes, if you're a perfectionist or if you're a driver, there's never a sense of peace. And maybe I should say never, but it's very erratic. And so sometimes when good things do happen, if we're not careful, we're afraid to be thankful for the good things, because with every good thing, what's coming next? A bad thing. So we're afraid to be thankful because we know if I'm thankful for it, I know what's coming. So I don't want to be thankful. So instead of being thankful, what I'm going to be is I'm going to be cynical, so I protect my heart as to what's coming next. Is there? I hope this morning. Well, I shouldn't say I hope. If I'm the only one this is for, then bear with me. But This is, Thanksgiving for me, being thankful is something that I have to intentionally work on in my life. That doesn't make me a bad person, and it doesn't mean I'm not appreciative, but it's an indicator of things that God is healing me of. And there's really a sense of healing here. And I got this from A.A. Milne, Winnie the Pooh, talking about little Piglet. It says, Piglet noticed that even though he had a very small heart, it could hold a rather large amount of gratitude. So I may be a little piglet in more ways than one, no comment. But I have to believe that even with hearts like mine, we can hold a large amount of gratitude. Which takes me into the story this morning, Matthew 17:24. Here's how it reads. After Jesus and his disciples arrived at Capernaum, the collectors of the 2 drachma tax came to Peter and asked, "Hey, doesn't your teacher pay the temple tax?" And Peter said, yes, he does. And when Peter came into the house, Jesus was the first to speak. "Well, what do you think, Simon?" he asked. "Whom do the kings of the earth collect duties and taxes? Is it from their sons, from their own sons, or from others?" "Well, from others," Peter answered. "So the sons are exempt," Jesus said to him. "But so that we may not offend them, go down to the lake and throw out a line. Take the first fish you catch, open its mouth, and you'll find a 4 drachma coin. Take it, give it to them for my tax and yours." That's the text this morning we're working off of. Now, it's an interesting story. So I want to go back through and we'll kind of parse this thing out here a bit. So they arrived back at Capernaum. Now, Capernaum should be a familiar town to you. We've been going back there quite a bit in the life of Christ. In fact, it's my belief that Jesus had a home in Capernaum. I believed he lived there. And not only that, but I think that was the hub of the ministry. That's where the quote-unquote headquarters would be. Whenever they needed supplies, goods, refueling, they went back to Capernaum. Again, that's where he lived. It's around the Sea of Galilee. It just worked. So Capernaum was that place. So when they arrived, meaning that they had been away for a while, they show back up. Now, somewhere along the way, Jesus is in the house, Peter's doing something outside, and they get a knock on the door. And it's the 2 drachma police, okay? They're looking for they're looking for their tax. Let me give you a little bit of backdrop on this. I had to do some work on it as well. Every Jewish man 20 years of age and over was expected to pay this drachma tax for the maintenance of the temple. So Capernaum is way to the north. Obviously, the temple's in Jerusalem. All the Jews had to help pay for that tax or pay for that temple maintenance, upkeep, that sort of thing. It kind of acted as, don't take this the wrong way, it was denominational in nature. The main headquarters was in Jerusalem, so every synagogue, every Jew that claimed to be a part of the temple needed to give their fair share to make sure that that was taken care of. It was not a required tax. It wasn't required. It was not compulsory, but it was this sense of you got the stink eye if you didn't pay it, okay? Like many churches maybe we've been a part of, It's not required, but have you been tithing today? Okay, so you have this sense to it that it was, that when they show up, they want to know if Jesus has been paying. Now, the month that you would pay this tax is called the month of Adar, or what we call March. And it was now nearly 6 months overdue. If we do the timeline on this thing, by the time the disciples and Jesus arrived back in Capernaum, it's been 6 months since they've been there last. And so they're 6 months overdue on their bill. So that's why the guys show up. Hey, doesn't your teacher pay the tax? He's 6 months overdue on it. So that's what that was about. And a half a shekel is not much money. I mean, the drachma was not very much money at all. It wasn't a huge fee, but it was something that needed it needed to be paid by people that wanted to pay it, so to speak. And so they come to Peter and they begin asking him. Can anybody guess why they didn't go to Jesus, by the way? I mean, this happens quite a bit. The Pharisees always seem to go to the disciples about asking why Jesus doesn't do this or why Jesus doesn't do that. Anybody even have a guess as to why that would be? What's that? They're scared of him. I think you're right. Because anytime the Pharisees do talk to Jesus, what happens? They look dumb. They look dumb, and they walk away with their tail between their legs. So they've kind of learned not to make a frontal assault at Jesus, but we'll go to the backside. We'll talk to the disciples, see if they could passively, aggressively get the word to Jesus. Say, hey, you've got disciples. You claim to be a rabbi. You're a big dig here. You're a big guy here in Capernaum. You ought to at least be paying your fair share. Okay. Now, what's interesting is that Jesus is going to take this awkward situation. He's going to do something pretty cool with it. He's going to reveal a kingdom principle here. So Peter is asked this question. So what's Peter's response, by the way? He says what? He says, yes, we pay. Now, had they paid? Not yet. Okay. I think he's caught a little flat-footed. He's like, yes. Yes, we paid. And so they walk away. And so Peter then is going to go in the house. And I don't know about you, but if you're Peter and you're going to go talk to Jesus, which remember, just a couple weeks ago we saw that whole transfiguration thing, and he fell flat on his face, frightened, So he's going to go talk to Jesus about him not paying his bills. Okay, is there anybody here that likes to go talk to family members about why they don't pay their bills? Me neither. Okay. So he's going up, just comes in the house. Jesus, how's it going? And so Jesus is the first one to talk. Now, I don't know how Jesus knew about this conversation. Maybe he overheard it from outside. But Jesus steps up to Peter's awkwardness and says, hey, Peter, come here. Let me ask you a question. So when the kings decide to collect taxes, do they collect the taxes from their own sons? Or do they collect it from the strangers? 21st century terms, do the privileged people still get privilege, and does the average Joe still have to carry the bulk of what goes on around here? Now remember, Peter is a fisherman, a small business owner. Let's talk about taxes and small business. No. This is okay. Some of you right here, some of you right now, you're antacids. You're popping Rolaids right now as they talk about taxes. We get to the end of the year. I mean, that's really what it is. He says, is it the average Joe or is it the privileged that have to pay taxes? What's Peter's response to that, by the way? Does he have to think about that very long? Nope. What's he say? Who pays them? The strangers do. The average Joes. How do you think Peter felt about that? When things are unfair, resentful would be a good word. Is there anybody here that likes to pay their taxes? I mean, that's the most ridiculous question of the morning. You don't even have to raise your hand. In fact, if you do like to pay your taxes, please raise your hand so we know how to exorcise the demon from you. I mean, nobody likes that. I mean, the thing is that I heard one person say one time, the only fair tax is the one I don't have to pay. That might very well be true. Is that nobody likes to pay them. And everybody thinks that they pay too much. And if you listen to too much cable news and listen to too much talk radio, you can find yourself in a very dark place when it comes to this world and politics, right? And has there ever been a time, maybe there has been, but in my lifetime, it's getting more and more polarizing, more and more negative, more and more my opinion versus the world's, and I'm right and everybody else is wrong and I don't care and that person's horrible. I mean, it moves outside of politics into insults and putting people down, and it's negative, it's depressing, and you just, There's bumper stickers that are some of the most offensive things I've ever seen. Let alone the stuff on Facebook. Do we even need to talk about Facebook? No. Thank you. I mean, you just wonder if a guy like Peter you're right. The average Joe has to cover everything. I'm not privileged. I'm not exempt. How come I'm not exempt? It seems like my entire life I've had to do this and I've had to do that. And look at they're getting us here and they're sticking us to us there. And I'm cleaning up my language the best I can. But you understand. We just walk around and we fume and we're dark and it's just, I can't believe the world's like this, and they're taking prayer out of schools, and this person's doing that. They're going to take more taxes. I can't have my insurance, or I have too much insurance, and they're taking my car and they're taxing this and they're going to do that. And you can just walk around and it just, whoa, just floods and floods and floods. And then we have Thanksgiving. Hey, what are we thankful for? Yeah, taxes aren't until spring. You see the price of turkeys? Turkey's so expensive. You know why turkey's so expensive? Because oil price is so high. You know, you got to fertilize the lawn and do that stuff, and it gets the turkeys, and that's why the turkey's so expensive. And you know, you can't even trust turkeys today because they got all the hormones in them, stuff like that. Stuff will kill you. You need to get some organic ones. You got Whole Foods, and and you just go over all this. And after a while, you're like, what is there to be thankful for? There's nothing to be good to. There's nothing to be thankful for. Pay 2 drachma. I mean, who are they to come knock on our doors? We'll pay drachma. I'll pay drachma when I want to pay drachma. Telling me what to do. It's just, you've always been like that. It's been from the very beginning. They've always They take and they take and they take and they take. I never get a Christmas card from them, but they always expect me to get one. They always expect me to cook this and do that. And they come and all they do is they criticize, and all they do is they come in and they leave their stuff in the bathroom and they just do this. And it's just, and my house is a mess. And don't they even realize? You always take your shoes up at the door. Always take your shoes. How many times do I have to tell them that? And you understand what I'm saying here? It is unfair. Doesn't anybody understand me? But like I said, I'm sure I'm just talking about myself as to what this could be. So Jesus says something really interesting. From the question, he goes to the inside. He says, yeah, right, you're right, Peter. The sons are exempt. Yeah, you have to tell me twice. Yeah, just chew on that, Peter. The sons are exempt. They don't have to do any of this, do they? No. Hey, while you're thinking about that, let's go take care of this whole tax thing here. Why don't you get a line, go down the lake, go catch a fish. Yeah. And then I want you to pull the fish out, and inside the mouth of the fish will be a huge coin, a 4 drachma coin. Pull that out. Go pay the taxes for both me and you. Now, if you're Peter, and Jesus just told you to do that, what is running through your mind? What's that? Right. Right. Like, what does that mean when we just say right? What are we saying? What are we saying? Because I think you're right. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Nancy, but I mean, what do we mean by that? Sure. We're saying something within these little words. What are we saying?
Sarcasm.
Sarcasm for what? What's the truth behind the sarcasm here? You're crazy? I don't trust you. What else? I don't believe you. It's amazing. Actually, it's not amazing. Maybe it's typical that in my life, when I start to get cynical and I have an ungrateful spirit, that when the Lord asks me to do something, right, like I'm going to go do that. So Peter does. He goes down. And I imagine all of his buddies are out there on the shore, Now, he's a commercial guy, okay? But for fun, he's probably out there fishing. He throws a line. He's on the shore. Hey, what's going on? You wouldn't believe what just happened today. What just happened? The 2 drachma police come by. Haven't been around for 6 months. And the first thing I get, hey, how come you haven't paid your share? How can have you ever get that happen before? I've never liked that guy anyway. Remember him in school? He just throws his line out here. And all of a sudden, he catches this fish. Now, I keep wanting to say they have a reel, but spin casting was not around in the first century. But I remember talking to a guy that was telling me about when he was in Africa, how they would fish. They would go out into these marshy areas. Now, I'm not sure I don't think this is the way they did it there, but this is just amazing. They drop a line into the water, and it just had a piece of wire on the end of the line. It wasn't even a hook. It was just a piece of wire that they bent. And they drop it into the water, and they would go like this. And once they felt a tug, they would pull the fish out of the water, spin it, and catch it in their left hand. That's how they caught fish in this country. I wish I could remember what the country was. He was just telling me about this last week. Caught it in his hand. He said when the missionaries come out and they try it, there's fish flying all over the place. It's the funniest thing about people getting hit in the back of the head with fish. So I don't know what Peter did, but boom, gets right in his hand. Everyone's like, hey, Peter caught a fish, Peter caught a fish. Or Simon, it said, Simon, hey, caught a fish. So Simon's like, hey, he's reaches in here. Talk about a David Blaine moment, you know what I mean? Throws the fish back in the water, puts it in his pocket, and goes pays his bill. Now, if I'm on the shore with that guy, I'm grabbing every fish I've caught. Billy, check the fish! Check the fish! There's money in the fish! And everyone's shaking. There's no money coming out of the fish. It doesn't happen to everybody. You see, because sons get privileges. It doesn't happen for the rest of the world. It only happens with those that are sons. You see, they're exempt. One of the things Jesus is teaching us here is as much as it may be unfair for the taxes and the world and things like that, you are a son and you are exempt from this. All the worry, all the anxiety, all the anger, you don't have to do that. You're exempt. That God says to you and to me through the death and resurrection of his Son, you are my child. You are a child of the King. You don't have to pay. I'll pay it for you. Being a son is absolutely unfair. Totally unfair. Do you know, being a Christian, when you cast your heart into the care of God, when you're his, it is the most unfair thing you'll ever experience in your life. Towards your good. Throughout the Bible, it says that you are his beloved and you are favored. Do you know what it means to be favored? It means unfairly the deck has been stacked for you. As if God is cheating on your behalf. He's making it so that there's not a single thing that happens in this life that does not ultimately put you in a place where it's better. There's not a single thing that it has been put there. Now, when or how or what that looks like, I'm not sure. We're going to talk about that this morning. But the fact is that you are exempt from this. You don't have to live like the world lives, and you don't have to feel what the world feels. You're exempt from this. That doesn't mean you won't feel, and it doesn't mean you're not on this earth. But don't you love the way that God does this? I wrote this down. I said, he provides us with everything we need, beginning with salvation found in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. In him we find our sonship. So here's the great part about it. God says, listen, you're exempt from this. You're exempt from having to deal with all this. And let me show you how. I'm going to provide for you. I want you to go down, go catch a fish, go pull the coin out of the fish. Let me ask you, why do you think God would tell Peter to go grab a fish and pull money out of a fish? I mean, why? Anybody even have a guess?
Strengthen his faith.
Strengthen his faith? Good, what else? What else? Somebody said something.
It's something really familiar with fish.
Okay. Had Peter ever, do you think Peter's ever pulled a 4 drachma coin out of a fish before? Nope. Can now. See, here's the thing. When God provides for us, he doesn't provide in a way that he bubble wraps us in this world. Okay, set you up on a shelf. Now you won't experience any life anymore. He says, no. We're going to experience life. But we're going to experience life with joy and adventure, not with fear and anxiety. I heard a person say one time that gratitude looks at our past. Love keeps us in the present. But whenever we begin to look into the future, we do it with fear, anxiety, and control. So we live in the present, remembering the past, and not dealing with the future. Didn't Christ say that? Huh? Today has enough trouble of its own. So we love in the present, we have gratitude for the past, and we'll let the future just be whatever it's going to be. You can't do that without the Lord. We're exempt from having to worry about the future. That's what's so great. So this morning I want to talk about thankfulness. How do we live with a heart of gratitude because we're exempt? And what happens, or what are some of the struggles we have with practicing gratitude and thankfulness? So I want to show a clip here of what happens sometimes when our circumstances. Well, let me back up real quick. Let me back up. Okay, when I say the word thankfulness, what comes to your mind? What comes to your mind when I say the word thankfulness? What's that? Courtesy? Appreciation? Good. What else? Gratitude? Good. What else? Prayer? Did I hear that right? Prayer? Good. What else? Reflection? Good. What else? Happy? Good. Acceptance? Good. What else? There's a peace about it? Good. What else? Work? Good. What else? So in my life, thankfulness, and one of the reasons why I struggle with it is because I have a misconception of it in my life. I used to think that happiness, when I get what I want and my needs met, was what I would, then I could be thankful. When I got what I wanted and my needs were met, then I could be thankful. But if my needs weren't completely met, or if what I wanted I didn't get, there was no reason to be thankful, because I wasn't happy. As if happiness is what drives thankfulness. Or if it wasn't that, thankfulness was contingent upon instant gratification. If I didn't feel thankful, I couldn't be thankful. Okay? And I like to say I figured all that out, but I haven't. But I'm working on it. I love what Jenny said. Thankfulness for me has to do with work. Having to find things to be thankful for, having to look at things with a grateful heart. I put here, thankfulness opens the door to our hearts so that God's healing can enter in. Let me say that one more time. Thankfulness opens the door to our hearts so God's healing can enter in. It's pretty tough for God to heal us until we get to that place where we can be thankful. And someone said the word acceptance. It's hard to be thankful until you've accepted something as what it is. Because if not, then we're constantly trying to make it into something other. So we're never thankful for what it is. We'll only be thankful when it becomes what we want it to become. That is difficult. And there is no peace in that. Because once you make it what it is, you know what you do for the rest of your life? Maintain keeping it what you want it to be. And in my life, I don't know about yours, but in my life, it's really tough because most of my thankfulness is contingent upon relationships, and those I have very little control over when it pertains to people. So finding thankfulness with where things are at is huge. But circumstances can get in the way. I put here truths about real thankfulness. Number one, it cannot be driven by circumstances. I found this little clip here about if you're cooking Thanksgiving. I've got 18 people coming over to my house for Thanksgiving. And so I found this to be interesting. Take a look. Oh, which, by the way, there's a little card down here on the bottom. Read this as the video goes on. You'll appreciate it.
It was short. See, that was pretty.
Right here. Yeah. Is that it?
Yeah. As we prepare for Thanksgiving, Melinda and I would like to take a moment to reflect on the blessings of this season. As moms, all we want is a peaceful celebration with our families. The time we spend preparing the food that will grace our table is our gift to our loved ones. Each morsel is a token of our love and appreciation to our families. Our reward is the smiles on your beautiful faces and warm hugs from appreciative spouses. We count the hours of decorating and grocery shopping and baking as small steps towards a forever memory, snapshots of our special day. In fact, this is Melinda's first year to have the opportunity to host her extended family's Thanksgiving. She has expressed to me her excitement in preparing the first Thanksgiving turkey, and how especially satisfying it has been in learning the recipes that have been handed down to her from generation to generation. Didn't you say that those recipe cards were written in your own great-grandmother's handwriting? How special that must be. Some special memories that I have created with my children have been collecting fall leaves from our backyard and making turkey handprints. Gobble, gobble. Oh, and especially going around the table and saying what we're truly thankful for. So, as you look around your table at your loved ones this Thanksgiving, count your blessings. You may just be surprised at how truly blessed you really are. Oh, and one last word to you moms. Don't fall into the trap of doing everything yourself this Thanksgiving. Let your children help in the preparation so that they may be a blessing to others. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, so anyways, that's pretty funny. So, so here's some truths about, and I say real thankfulness, maybe the better term is genuine. Yeah, that's what I have it there, genuine thankfulness. Because again, it's the thankfulness that comes through circumstances that we appreciate or enjoy, are that they can come and go. The kind of thankfulness and gratitude that God is wanting to instill within us is one that begins with us. It's not one that begins with our circumstances. If we're waiting for our circumstances to change before we have a heart of gratitude or thankfulness, we will find ourselves constantly waiting. And the longer we wait, I don't know about you, the longer we wait, the more depressed I get, the more resentful I become, and the more I begin to control and manipulate others to get them so that I can be thankful. I am so thankful I fixed that person. You know, I'm so thankful that I got them to say this or do this. And the fact is that most of the time it never happens, and it's just, so thankfulness begins with disconnecting ourselves from the circumstances, not letting that be the driver. I wrote down here, every circumstance, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to say it. Every circumstance can offer a gift. Sometimes it's a matter of waiting. Now I know that some circumstances seem impossible, and that you can see nothing good coming out of it. And that is a very reasonable feeling. Nobody's here today saying we're imposing any sort of, hey, so buck up and be happy. Happiness and thankfulness are not the same thing. Happiness and thankfulness are not the same thing. But I do believe, I have to believe that if I wait on the Lord, that He will squeeze even a drop of something good out of a circumstance that seems so dry. I have to believe that. Now, sometimes my mind has to tell my heart this. And sometimes practicing thankfulness in those circumstances are, sometimes, as we say it, we have to fake it till we make it. But I can even begin to convince myself that there's something good today. Thankfulness in every situation sometimes is found in some of the simplest things, but they're there. Charles Beard said, when it gets dark enough, you can see the stars. And sometimes it gets really dark before you see anything. I'm not naive in knowing that thankfulness is not something that comes naturally to us when times are not good. But in those times, we by our faith, we say, you know what? I'm going to wait. So my kids eat chicken nuggets by the truckload. When you cook nuggets, I've learned that, number one, it takes much longer than the package tells you. Unless you it just takes a lot longer than the package tells you. So you turn the oven to 425 degrees. It says to put them in there for 20 to 25 minutes. And so you spread them out on the cookie sheet and you put them in there. They are rock hard. They are rock hard. They are rock hard chicken nuggets. And so you put them in there. Now it looks, because for me at 25 minutes, they should be done, right? Because that's what the package says. And I have to imagine there are people that make a living out of putting the right directions on the packages. Do you see that I have a hard time with thankfulness? No. But I have to wait to 25 minutes. But they look done. They should be done. And so I wait and I pull them out. And when I pull them out, inevitably, they're not done. And when they're not done, you know what I do? Do you think I say, oh, Lord, thank you. Thank you that they're not done? No. I'm like, these should be done. They look done. 25 minutes, it says should be done. It's not done. I got to put them back in there. And I have to wait and wait and wait and wait. Now, ultimately, will they be done? All God's people said, yes. Okay? If you don't say yes, then yeah, we're really lacking in hope here. Okay. Yes, they will be done. But not on my timeline. There are some very frozen situations that take a long time to cook. And so you wait. And so you wait, and you wait, and you wait. And so you wait. Now, you might say, but Mike, how can you be thankful in waiting? You just thank God that you can wait. Because they will get done. I don't know when, I don't know how, but it will get done. But if I'm not careful, I'll begin to think these will never get done. And I'll just throw them all away. Thankfulness is about an attitude of life in the Spirit where we say, I know that these will be done. And I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. And I can be thankful in the fact that I can wait. Okay? So circumstances, if I'm not careful, can begin to get the best of me. I heard this one, Alphonsus Carr said, some people grumble the roses have thorns. I'm grateful that thorns have roses. I thought that was good. The Chinese word for crisis is made up of two brushstrokes. The first represents danger. The second represents opportunity. I don't know if you ever heard that before, but both of these are found in the fact that I believe that if I give my hurt and my circumstances over to God, number one, I'm powerless to do anything about it anyway. So, I mean, I'm either going to hold on to something that I have no control over, or I can give them over to somebody who does have control over it. And when I say give it over, it's really, he already has control of it anyway. I'm just releasing myself from it, that he can begin to cook that frozen place. And I trust him. And so we wait. But I got to be careful. If gratitude is driven by my circumstances, I won't have a lot of gratitude, especially in the key spots of my heart. Secondly is this: it's not dependent upon what others have or don't have. And that includes myself, my own person. And what I mean by that is this: if I start to measure myself by what I think I have, especially when somebody else has it and I don't, okay, that's hard to be thankful. Okay, like for example, it's hard to drive by Carrera Motors and be thankful for your automobile, right? You're driving by, you see that, and you're just like, oh, I'm so thankful for the Subaru, you know, as you're looking at it, and you are thankful. But do you understand, when I begin to look outward and say, boy, I wish it could be like that, I wish I could have that, I wish my life was like this, I wish it was like that, and we begin to wish, and we think that happiness will be out there if I just attain this or had this, or the opposite, if I didn't have this or if I didn't have that in my life, then I could be happy. What creeps in is the word envy. And envy at its core, I wrote, you should write this down. I wrote this down. I ran across this. I'm like, this is good. Envy is a hostile form of self-pity. Envy is a hostile form of self-pity. I begin to look at other people and say, you know what, they shouldn't have that. I deserve that. I'm the regular Joe. How can that person, a privileged son, get that? That's not right. But at the core of it, has nothing to do with them. Who's it have to do with? Me and my heart. So I got to be careful. Now, I said it, sometimes it's out there. Sometimes it's within ourselves and our past. We look back and say, you know what? I remember in my 20s, I used to be able to do this, this, and this, and I had this, this, and this. But now look at me now. I used to have this, or I used to have that. Now I don't have that. Now I have this. And we begin to envy our history. Either way, we find ourselves in a place where it's really tough to have gratitude. Okay. Now, up to this point, if we stopped right now, this wouldn't be a very great Thanksgiving, right? You're like, geez, Mike, you just dumped a load on us here. Here's what I want to do, okay? I want you to take your white card, and I'm gonna do this as well, okay? Now, like the 2 drachma collectors, I can't make you do this, but I'll give you the stink eye if you don't. Okay? Nah, it's not true. Sort of. All right. I want you to put a line down your card here. Line down your card. Okay. Line it down your card. Okay? If you don't have a pen, I told you you're going to need one. See, I wasn't lying to you. So anybody need a pen? I'll toss you one. You got a pen? You guys want one of this? That'd be a great shot if I could hit the balcony. You guys have a pen? Oh, look at, she's got one. Awesome. I was hoping to throw it. So, okay. So this is just an exercise. That's all it is. And with any exercise, some of us may be more flexible than others. But again, we're not looking to the person to our right or left. We're working on our own stuff. And here's what I want to do. I want to take a couple minutes. I want you to sit and reflect on maybe 1 or 2 frozen spots that you've got in your life right now. A couple areas where you just can't be thankful for. There's just no peace there. And doesn't have to be long. It can just be a word. Again, you're not turning these into me. I'm not, and if you can couch them in code if you want, because if this is the card you're going to drop in the basket later, that's fine too. Or you don't have to drop this card in at all. Hold on to it yourself. But I want us to take a couple minutes and reflect on 1 or 2 areas where you're like, I really do have a real frozen spot right here. about something going on in my life that I just can't right now. It's tough to be thankful for. So let's let you do that. I know this might be the deep end of the pool for you, but just take a couple minutes. We'll let you chew on it. Hey, Jeff, would you flip on the audio deck just a little bit of music? We'll fill up the room here. Sometimes a little too much silence can be paralyzing. Perfect. Thank you.
The question that is never far away, but healing doesn't come from the explained. Jesus, please don't let this go in vain. You're all I have, all that remains. So here I am, what's left of me, where glory meets my suffering. I'm alive, even though part of me has died. You take my heart and breathe it back to life. I fall into your arms open wide, when the hurt and the healer cry. Breathe. Sometimes I feel
Just start writing on your arm, Vince. On your arm.
pain so deep that I can hardly move. Just keep my eyes completely fixed on you. Lord, take hold and pull.
Something that have to stop here, obviously. But at least for today, this would be a good exercise to do anytime, really. So we've got two columns. The first column that we just put a couple of pieces in is areas of my life right now where I'm really struggling with gratitude and thankfulness. Just a situation, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's something about yourself that you're really struggling with right now that you really have a hard time getting thankful for. Whatever that is, and again, you don't, it's not measured by anybody, but that's the one side. So the question is, how do we practice thankfulness when we have a list like that on our left? Okay? And so we talk about ways we can practice being thankful. And our friend, the pilgrim and the turkey here, are going to give us a little bit of insight on that we saw earlier. So take a look at this.
How many times have I told you, feet off the coffee table?
Jeez, you scared the stuffing out of me. Where you been all day anyway?
I have been getting ready for Thanksgiving.
Oh, you mean the apocalypse?
Okay, now I know that Thanksgiving isn't the best time of the year for turkeys, but it's not a time to be cynical. It's a time to stop and count your blessings.
No, right.
Easy for you to say, Mr. Positive Pilgrim. Mr. My life's perfect because I've got buckles on my shoes and my hat doubles as a hot tub.
Okay, now stop.
You stop.
Just listen to me.
You listen.
Okay, I'm listening.
Hi.
I don't have anything to say. I just...
All right, okay, bring it in. Come on. Come on, let's hug it out. Who's your buddy? Who's your pal? I am, that's right. Now look, I know what you're going through. I've had my share of my own midlife crises.
Like what?
Trust me, this too shall pass.
Yeah. But what do I have to be thankful for? I mean, look at me. I live in your house. I sleep on your couch. I eat your food. My life is a wreck. And besides that, I have not seen or heard from my brother Larry in over a week, and I can't even grow a decent beard. What kind of turkey am I?
You are the type of turkey that's not going to allow circumstances to dictate your joy. You are going to have a more thankful perspective.
What you talking about, Pilgrim?
I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Do you have a place to live? Well, be thankful for that. Do you have a place to lay your head down at night?
Yeah.
Well, be thankful for that. Are you getting enough to eat?
Yeah.
Seriously, I need to know if you're getting enough to eat.
Yeah. It's like you're trying to fatten me up.
More than you know. All I'm saying is let's not focus on what we don't have, but focus on what God has already blessed us with.
You're right. I am a blessed turkey.
Yes, and you're about to bless a whole pilgrim village. Never mind. Hey, I am hungry. You want something to eat?
You betcha, Pilgrim.
Hey, I forgot about these leftovers.
Larry.
So, just a couple of things here, and we've got time constraints here. So we've got our card here, and we're talking about, all right, so Mike, so what's this mean? It's easy just to say the old cliches of be thankful for what God's given you, yada, yada, yada. But I want to give us some practical things, because I know sometimes emotionally, we just don't have it in us to move out of that place where we're just in that funk. And so sometimes you're just some hands-on things, okay? Things to try. First one's this: recognize small changes. Sometimes in my life, I look at the grand scheme of the landscape of life, and you're like, all right, so instead of looking at the entire thing, I want to focus in on, all right, what are just some small changes that have happened in my life over the last year that I can say, you know what, I could think that's a good thing. I'm different than where I was a year ago. And so we focus on small changes. Some of the small changes may even be, you know what? I have not ran out of gas all year. You might say, oh, Mike, that's ridiculous. Really? Try running out of gas. Okay? It's the small little changes as we begin to focus in on those things that they begin to chip away at the frozen places in our heart. And I know it's like, but Mike, I still got this big thing over here. We understand. I understand. But you also have this here, and this here, and this here, and this here. And if we lose sight of that, again, we just get paralyzed in this place. So begin, number one, with recognizing small things. I put here, the little things we are grateful for begin to nurture us. We begin to have that attitude begin to shift. Secondly, look back at where you've been. Remember what God has done and how He has got you to where you're at today. James Barrie writes, God gave us memories so that we might have roses in December. You get that? God gave us memories so that we might have roses in December. Look back on your life. Look back on what God has done here. He's gotten you through this. He's been here for this. Go back and look at these places. I tell you, I have a folder in my desk. It's a fat folder, big folder. And it's every encouraging note that anybody has ever sent to me. It's huge. Recently, that folder's been pulled out on more than one occasion. And I read the notes. And I read the cards. And it reminds me of things. It reminds me of stories and memories. And I remember where I've been and where God has gotten me. And in those places, I just want to encourage you, look back and remember those places where God is moving and growing. And when you begin to do that, again, your heart begins to shift. And I know it's like, Mike, I just don't feel like doing that. I know, here, listen, the actions come before the feelings. If you let your feelings determine your actions, you'll be stuck. Okay? Begin to act, and as you're doing that, the feelings will begin to change. So you have this folder, which, by the way, every nasty note I've ever got, I throw away. So if somebody like, I hope you ran across my note. Nope, I didn't. I deleted it or I threw it away. Let me tell you something. I've got more nasty notes up here than will ever fit in a folder. I need to keep the good ones to remind me. Okay? Next one. Thank you is a sufficient prayer. Thank you is we said last week or 2 weeks ago, no is a full sentence. I like that. Thank you is a full prayer. If you pray that prayer, just thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you just say that, it does something to you. Just say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You can't overdo it. You cannot overdo it. Thank you for what's going on here. Thank you in this circumstance. Thank you for this situation. Psalm 100 verse 4 says, we enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name. We just say thank you. And is there anything, let's try this real quick. What are some things we could be thankful for? Small things. Breathing. Breathing is a good thing to be thankful for, right? Breath's a good thing. Okay, good. What else? Our eyes. Good. What else? What's that? Warm clothes. Good. What else? My pastor. Your pastor. All right. Man. Find me at the door, I guess. Well timed. Good. What else? Thank you for that. What else? Our family. Good. What else? Good. What else? Having a job. Good. What else? Heaven. Good. What else? Roof. Good. What else? Hope. Good. What else? Running water. Good. What else? Chicken nuggets. Good. What else? Opportunities. Good. What else? Living in America. Good. What else? Mountains. Good. What else? Grandchildren. Good. What else? What else?
Physical healing.
What's that?
Physical healing.
Healing. Good. What else?
Awareness.
Company. Good. What else? Awareness. Good. What else? How long can we go on? After a while, if we did this enough, we'd almost break out into a worship service. Because that's all a worship service is a place where we say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's worship. You know what I was thankful for this morning? I was thankful when I pulled on my shoelaces, they didn't snap. That's where it began. Thankful that when I started the fire, it took off and I didn't have to burn 19 piles of papers to get it to go. Thankful when I got here, I had good friends. Boy, we can go on and on and on. And in the midst of doing that, even for a moment, life gets a little lighter. As one person says, when you live in gratitude, every footstep is like you're kissing the earth. We begin to do that. So, being thankful is huge. The other thing is we begin to express it. We begin to share it. In the Old Testament, whenever God did something great in the history of the Israelites, there was an altar that was built. And that altar was something that was used by fathers and grandfathers and great-grandfathers to take their kids to. And they would say, they'd be walking by and the kids would say, hey, Granddad, what is that over there? What's that altar for? And they say, hey, sit down. Let me tell you the story of Joshua. Or, hey, let me tell you the story of Jacob. Let me tell you the story of Samson. Let me tell you the story of Gideon. Let me tell you the story of Adam. And these stories were stories of thankfulness. Every altar had a story of gratitude attached to it. Every altar did. There wasn't a single altar that was built to say, hey, remember the time we screwed up and God beat us down. Nope. The altar was always about, and God raised us up and rescued us. There were stories of thankfulness that needed to be shared. You have stories that need to be shared. And I know someone's like, oh, Mike, I've got things to be thankful for. Have you told anybody? Have you told anybody? Well, I don't want to bother them. It's not for them. You need to tell the stories for you. You know, there's something powerful when you tell a story of thankfulness and it comes off your lips and you can hear it with your own ears. Our minds are funny things. Even if we have good stories in here, we have a way of tainting them. We don't hear them very well. But as we begin to express them, there's something, it's like we're speaking into the heavenly, something beautiful that resonates with our hearts. When's the last time you told a story of thankfulness? They're all around. We just listed off about 30 of them, didn't we? Tell me that story. Tell it, share it. Okay? The other thing is that as we express it, we have to express it with some gratitude. Okay, everybody grab your card real quick. Oh, mine's empty. Okay. Now, you're not going to believe this, or you may not believe it, but we're going to do it anyway. Is that on the left is the situation or circumstance. On the right, we're going to find something to be thankful for in it. Okay? Now, you say, Mike, that's impossible. Okay? These things are character defects of mine. These are things I have no control over. Okay, listen. Let's take just an example. This isn't mine, but let's do one. Let's say anger, for example. If you've got an anger issue, it's tough for you to be thankful when it comes to your anger issues. Can anybody think of, if somebody has an anger issue, what sort of positive strength they have in that situation or in that defective character, whatever you want to call it? What are some positive traits to a person who has anger issues?
Well, it's a secondary emotion for one.
Okay, so it's not who they are. Good, Paula, what else? Okay, they have love. What else? A person has anger issues. What do they have? What's that? Passion. They're passionate. Good, what else?
Opportunities.
Okay, there's opportunities there for growth. If you have an anger issue, one thing, hey, I got room to grow. Good, what else? What's that? Okay, so they have some good self-awareness. Good, what else? I know some of us are like, Mike, this is strange. I'm not going to compliment a person with an anger issue. What, you're going to just be resentful then? They're transparent, would you say? Okay. Someone said they're passionate. They care deeply. They want to affect change. Would those all be true? Are those all positive attributes? Everyone's like, I don't know. Yes, they are. Listen, every weakness we have in our life is simply a strength that's just gone over the top a bit. Or as one person said, it's a strength that's run amok. So I want you to look at the things you wrote down on the left. I want you to reflect for a minute. What is one thing I can be thankful for in that situation? It just has to be one. It may be minuscule, but just one thing that you can say thank you for in that situation? What have you learned about yourself, about God, about his keeping power? I'm kind of tipping my hand here a little bit, aren't I? What's the one thing? Okay, let's give you a minute or two. And as you're doing that, Chris, why don't you and Lucinda come up, and we're going to move right into communion. Okay, let's pray together. Father, we thank you so much. We are, I know it's hard to do, God, because in our nature, we have a sense of wanting to change the outside versus having to engage the inside. And yet, Lord, it begins with us. Starts with us. That's where your love begins. That's where you place us, Lord. It's us and you. Because, Lord, what happens outside of us, we have very little control over. But on the inside, Lord, we have these we have the opportunity to make choices as to how we're going to go about our day, how we're going to look at things, and how we're going to look at ourselves, Lord. Lord, give us grateful hearts. Lord, remind us once again that we are exempt because we are sons and daughters of the King. That we are so privileged. We are so very privileged because of who you are and how you have loved us. Father, help us to live in that. And as we begin to drift, call us back. Lord, you are so faithful. You are forgiving and kind. Lord, help us to be gentle with ourselves as you are with us as we begin to drift. That, Lord, we always know that we can always come back. Because the truth is, we really haven't gone anywhere in you. Lord, give us a great Thanksgiving. Help us to be thankful for the little things. And Lord, when the big things come along, we're going to be grateful for those as well. But at the end of the day, no matter what's happening around us, we can always look up and know that it's going to be okay. And it's in your name we pray. Amen.